Good evening. Welcome to the July 18, 2023 City Council meeting. The meeting is hereby called to order. Members of the public may attend this City Council meeting in person or may watch and listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and at the city's website at www.wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and/or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person at the meeting, in advance, or by logging into the Zoom call and raising your hand during the public hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel. You will be asked to unmute, and then you may begin your comment. All public comments must include your full name and address. Second item this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everybody to please rise and follow along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Third item on the agenda is the roll call. Please note that all members of the council, for the exception of Councilmember Plekish, are in attendance this evening. Also would like to note that the council participated in a workshop and reviewed and discussed legislation pertaining to adult use cannabis and hemp-derived consumables. The next item this evening is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as is, or would anyone care to make any changes?
So moved.
To approve the agenda as is?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been first and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Next item this evening is the public forum. As a reminder for those members of the public who are in attendance this evening and are interested in speaking, we ask that you please state your name, address, and indicate if you are representing a group. Your comments will also be limited to 3 minutes. If the item you wish to speak about is something that is on the agenda, for those that are in person, we ask that you fill out a form at the table in the back of the room. That would be the blue form. It's right here. If it is not an agenda item and something you'd like to speak about, then there is a white form in the back. If you could fill that out and please hand it to Steph. For those that are watching via Zoom, if you would like to speak during the public forum, please send a chat to staff. Let them know which item you'd like to speak about. And we will also then require that your camera be turned on when you speak. We have the first item this evening in our public forum is the Midsummer Public Safety Update by Police Chief Mark Schultz. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think it was a council member too that asked if we could have Chief Schultz come up and just give an update on traffic, on some of the activities of the police department this year, especially as it relates to last year and a plan we put together to be proactive with quelling violations, traffic with during the summer when it gets really busy. So Chief Schultz agreed to come up and provide us with a little bit of update with his his department and all the hard-working police officers that are working for him.
Thank you, Manager Dahl. And Madam Mayor, members of the council, as you're all likely very well aware, summertime is the busiest time of year for our department. And like many communities, ours not alone, traffic concerns are a large part of the public's complaints when it comes to some of the issues that folks see around town. And likewise, that would dictate that we pay more attention to those types of concerns. So this year is no exception, that's for sure. But I do think we've gone into this season a little bit more prepared than perhaps in the last few years. And so I'd first like to start by taking a few moments just to say how extremely proud I am of the Wayzata police officers. Every man and woman in our department has been diligent in trying to address these problems in not only Wayzata but also Long Lake. And I'm going to go through a few stats here that hopefully exemplify some of their work, but I don't want to take any credit away from any of them. It is completely, it all lies on their shoulders. And so I'm very grateful for their hard work, and I appreciate it. To gauge how busy we are as a police department, we typically would look at 3 different variables. They're pretty obvious. Number of total cases throughout any given year is a good variable. The amount and types of calls that we receive is a variable. For instance, more severe cases would take more time and more personnel to address. And the third one is the amount of self-initiated traffic that we're involved in. It typically comes from our free time, so to speak, and so the more traffic we have is somewhat of an indicator of how well staffed we are, as well as how we are staffed in order to balance our calls for service as opposed to proactive traffic enforcement. For the most part, I don't think our calls for service have increased a whole lot over the last few years, but the demand for traffic enforcement certainly has as we become a destination city. Our increased staffing levels, and I have the council to thank for this, has certainly helped us address this demand. This slide here in particular shows the total number of cases that have played a role in our activity levels over the course of 2022 and 2023. With the lighting, I apologize, it's a little bit difficult to see the blue, but this particular graph shows the May and June numbers, May being blue, June being orange, for both 22 and 2023. Why is that important? Because that's our turning point for our busy season. That's usually the time school's letting out and the time that things start to get really bubbling for us on the streets. So you can see an increase not only from May to June each year, but also from 2022 to 2023 during those same time frames. Then the table on the right shows our total number. I talked about our total number of case numbers, or our total number of calls for service. Calls for service and case numbers somewhat mutually exclusive, but if you see the first box shows our first half, so January through June of 2022 at 3,847 case numbers, and likewise for 2023, we're up a bit for case numbers at a little over 4,600. Next slide, please. I also mentioned that traffic enforcement numbers can also be an indicator and reflect many things. It can reflect the issues we're seeing or the time that we're able to use to address those issues while still being required to answer calls. And this slide illustrates, likewise the last slide, similarly, indicates our total numbers through June of 2022 versus 2023 as it relates to most of our traffic, either different types of repercussions, citations, verbal warnings, written warnings, or actual calls for spot checks or traffic details, and then some of the more egregious types of offenses that we're seeing. Obviously, DWI is in that group. One of the new ones that we've focused on is stops for exhibition driving, and you can see that the highlights on this slide, in particular of note, are the 97% increase in traffic details we're doing, the 100% increase in stops for seatbelts, and a massive 500% increase in stops for exhibition driving. It's quite remarkable. Next slide, please. Now, for the last 2 years, June, as you may know, has been our zero tolerance month. Again, I noted that school's letting out, things tend to get a little busy, and so we like to send the message that we are hearing our residents, we are enforcing our ordinances and state statutes, and try to quell those problems early, so June is a good time for us to do that. This particular slide shows the increase in our traffic enforcement broken down into consequences for both the months of May and June for this year, 2023. So May of 2023 to June, you can see 101% increase with our zero tolerance month in citations, 21% increase in verbal warnings, and a 66% increase in written warnings. Next slide, please. Now, aside from answering calls And stopping cars, of course, one other thing we can do to proactively combat these issues that we're seeing is just by raising awareness. This slide is taken from our department's Facebook page. And the actual post that you're seeing here is a post that we put out. It's a video from our bike patrol. And it's a post where we're actually reaching out to parents. Not all of our violators are from Wayzata, and so I wouldn't group, just our violators as being locals. But a lot of them are juveniles and are responsible to their parents. And so we're enlisting the help of parents to try to talk with their kids about safety and what's appropriate and how to be respectful to people in public. And I'm happy to say that this video clip, if you haven't seen it, go out and look at our Facebook page, the Wayzata Police Department Facebook page. It's on there. It's resulted in a traffic incident, but that particular video has garnered over 80,000 views. So we are reaching out, and we're doing it through these creative opportunities that social media provides. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Chief. Just quickly, for all of those who are here this evening and those that may be watching, maybe you could update everyone on what the size of the department is, because that's a lot of calls and not a very big department. Do you care to talk about that?
Sure, Madam Mayor, that's a great question. So in any given year, we average about, give or take, about 10,000 case numbers over the course of a year. And those are taken by most of our patrol staff. Our entire department is comprised of, right now, 17 sworn officers, but of course, I very rarely enter a squad car, at least with a computer. My deputy chief, likewise, we're busy tied up with administrative things. We've also got an investigator and a school resource officer and a detective that don't typically work patrol. So our patrol is comprised of roughly 10 people, and they work 24/7, 365 days a year. And so they need time off just like anyone, and so it's difficult to juggle that, but it certainly has helped put more cops on the street with more cops in our force.
That's a lot of cases for each one of those patrol officers. That's amazing. Thank you. Any questions from the council? No? Yes, please.
Not a question, but a compliment. I know that the police force has a strong dedication to DWIs, and I want to thank you for that. I think it makes a big impact in our community, so thank you.
Thank you for noticing.
Yes, Jeff?
I have a comment too, and kind of an observation. I did a drive around with one of your officers, and I noticed that a lot more of your stops are verbal warnings versus written warnings or tickets. And I was just impressed with how kind he was to the people he pulled over, and always looked at their history to see what kind of past they had as far as citations and things like that. And I just thought it was a really kind of humane and kind way to guide people to do the right thing.
Thank you for the comment. Yeah, education's our primary concern. Sometimes we can educate through a very candid and fruitful discussion, and other times we have to hang paper, so to speak, in the industry. But it's one of those things where we do take a lot of factors into consideration. So there's no cut and dried, cookie cutter way of doing that.
Well, thank you. I think, it goes without saying that not only do you have the support of the city council and this community, but, that support has been around for a very long time. And sometimes when we look around to other communities that don't have that support, I pride myself on living in a place where we have such a great working relationship with all of our first responders, police and fire, and for the amazing work that you do. That video was really impressive, and kids make mistakes, and they're held accountable, and thankfully nobody was injured through their actions, but really very appreciative of the work that the men and women of the Wayzata Police Department do every single day. So thank you very much, Chief. Well-deserved applause. Okay. We're still in the public forum, and I have two slips here, and they are for items that are not on our agenda this evening, so we'll address them during the public forum. The first, I think they're both for the same issue, which is Benton Avenue, which is looking around at the faces in the crowd, where I suspect the majority of folks. Are you speaking on behalf of Pat Broyles as well? Are you representing a group this evening, Mr. Johnson? Oh, okay, please, come on up. So I'll just check in with Ms. Broyles after you're done. If you could introduce yourself, sir, with your name and
Absolutely.
address. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, council members. My name is Corey Johnson. I reside at 254 Benton Avenue, and I'm joined by many of my neighbors, and together we represent the majority, if not close to all, of the owner-occupied homes on our street, Benton, and our neighborhood. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here to address you all in what we believe is a pressing issue in our community today. We also believe that we're at a unique point today to be able to influence some positive, lasting impact on our community and help maintain the high quality of the residential neighborhoods of Wayzata. And based on the current density issues that we're currently experiencing on our street in regards to short-term rentals and some of the apparent or projected growth in those numbers, we felt compelled to address you all here this evening. And really want to break it down to really three key points to consider in compiling everyone's thoughts. One being around the apparent lack of controls and rental regulation or licensing requirements in regards to short-term rentals. We understand that there is a licensing program that is in place by the city, but what has become apparent through research and multiple conversations with different city officials is that it appears there may be some gaps in the control around the management and visibility into the short-term rental activity that we're currently experiencing in our community. Second point is around, like I alluded to, the density of those short-term rentals in our neighborhood and the impact that those are having on each and every one of us. A couple of those items to make note of, but just being some of the noise issues that we've experienced, some of the heightened traffic and speed issues, some of the concern around safety, concern around the potential impact on the long-term financial values of our homes and overall desirability of our neighborhood as a whole, and really just overall, I guess, insecurity, if you will, around the number of transient vacationers, oftentimes in large groups, that are coming in and out of our neighborhood on a regular basis. And the third point, quickly, is what appears to be inconsistencies, if you will, with what is happening in our neighborhood today and what has been laid out and within the city's vision as was laid out in the 2040 comprehensive plan. And in the plan, one item to call out as it describes one of the strengths of the community being around, and in quote, this unique single-family residential neighborhoods, which are a vital component to the community's sense of identity. And a significant portion, pockets of the neighborhood currently being, operated as hospitality enterprises does not appear to align with what was laid out within the city's vision and plan. So we're here to really begin a plan of action to address the points that I addressed above, but really to work together with all of you to help establish some key controls and measures that we believe will help Wayzata continue to have a flourishing residential community that we all love. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate it. We also have another slip here from Ms. Pat Broyles. Ms. Broyles, would you like to come up, or did Mr. Johnson address all of your concerns? Pat?
Pat, can you come up to the podium, please?
Thank you for asking me to speak. I am not as well-versed in what we're going to talk about, so I'd feel more comfortable if some of the other people that live on Benton Avenue could speak before me. Is that okay with you?
Well, only, I'm not going to, I'm not going to ask people to come up if they're not willing to do it. What we have is, we have Mr. Johnson's comments. I didn't know if you had anything additional you would like to add at this time.
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
that's Ms. Okay, just one second. I'll call you up in just a minute. That was Ms. Broyles at 212 Benton Avenue, for the record. So we have Todd Buchanan. Yes, thank you. Jess, if you have additional points that Mr. Johnson has not made, if you would please make those, limited to those. And if you could introduce yourself, please, with your name and address.
I'm Todd Buchanan. Our family has lived at 232 Benton Avenue for the last 19 years. And while my day job is working as a photojournalist, I'm usually more comfortable letting my pictures do the speaking. So to that end, I have these photos, just one single image. If you mind if I present those to you.
No, please, if you could hand them to the council member at the end there. Please, watch out for the microphone.
After speaking with the residents on our block, including the ones you see here tonight, many of us are concerned about the changes on the block that are largely due to the short-term rentals that have now sprung up in a dense area at the end of Benton Avenue. You heard from Corey, who is situated near those recently added STRs, and the day-to-day problems we encounter: more traffic, weekend events, parties, other things like that. But I wanted to share some thoughts about how these SDRs need to be addressed, as these will only proliferate in the coming years. Concentrated clusters of short-term rentals can disrupt the sense of community and permanence that is essential for fostering strong neighborhood bonds. The indiscriminate conversion of single-family owner-occupied homes into transient accommodations now not only detracts from the long-term stability of our city, but also diminishes the availability of affordable housing options as well. As for regulations addressing these STRs, Plymouth, Spring Park, St. Louis Park, Bloomington, Prior Lake, Roseville, Stillwater, Minneapolis, St. Paul, as well as Rochester and Duluth are just a few examples which have passed STR restrictions or requiring licensing. Our existing regulations do not address STRs on only long-term rentals. In the absence of regulations, only more STRs will move into our neighborhood because we have not addressed them. Wayzata's 2040 comprehensive plan is very detailed in the vision for a healthy Wayzata in the future, and single-family owner-occupied homes are very much at the center of the comprehensive plan. I do know that 40% of our housing in Wayzata is rental properties, but these homes in our neighborhood are not multifamily buildings. They were built as single-family homes and are not owner-occupied. Quoting from the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the first item under housing goals and policies is, consider the preservation of single-family neighborhoods as identified on the official land use and zoning maps. STRs deplete from the finite amount of housing stock that we have and uses them in a manner that is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and in my mind, the density of the STRs on the street denudes the value of our homes. If we want Wayzata to achieve its 2040 comprehensive plan, it's time for us to act on this issue, because we lack of regulation leaves a void that will be filled by more STRs in our neighborhoods. and proactively managing short-term rentals, we can preserve the unique charm of Wayzata, protect the interests of our residents, and ensure a suitable and prosperous future for our city. Thank you for hearing some of our concerns, and we hope we can continue the dialogue.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Buchanan. So just really quickly, Corey, and I apologize, I don't remember your wife's name. Holly? Molly, thank you. So we did have a conversation on the phone. I'll just reiterate some of those statements. We have a strategic planning session that's coming up, and we will consider as a council if the short-term rental piece is going to be something that we focus on in the short term. We have considered as a council years ago, and in fact, I was the one who had brought it up, to consider having some type of licensing or regulations in place. The majority of the council, because we are a council of 5, did not agree that it was the time or place to put something like that in motion. That was probably close to 8 years ago. Times and circumstances change, so we'll discuss collectively as a group if the majority of the council feels that this is something that we need to address, and frankly want to invest your money, because it's not our money, it's all of our collective monies, tax dollars, because it will be a long and expensive process to enact, if that's the way we want to go, with ordinances and licensing and whatever, and that's why we have attorneys and staff. And also, frankly, looking at what has worked in those cities that you have mentioned, the licensing and the ordinances and precluding the expansion of short-term rentals. We have more data now around the country in many communities where legislation has been good and where it hasn't been good. And so we can look at all of those different factors and weigh them. Just going to warn you, it is not a quick process. The wheels of government move very slowly. This is our side hustle, if you can call it that. And so we will weigh that along with all of the other priorities that we've put in motion over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and certainly have conversations. But we do appreciate the bringing that to our attention. Pardon me. Until Corey had brought up this issue, I was not aware that there was that level of density on a street that has frankly been really attractive in town, very desirable. And so, when we don't always know what is a short-term rental unless we go out on those sites ourselves and look in our own little town and see who's renting what. There's no sign in front of it. So I appreciate you bringing it to our attention and the concerns. Along with that, if there is something that is in violation of an ordinance, be it noise, parking, all of those things, please do, no matter how trivial it may seem, call 911. We no longer do the non-emergency numbers. It all goes through 911 because we want records of those things, right? We want record of that activity and those calls. And the police will, look into it. They'll disperse the people who aren't behaving according to what, the rules that we've set up for our community. So please, I would encourage you to keep doing that. And we will be working with the chief or someone from his department in terms of number of calls to that area, what the problems have been, and how we can help mitigate that as well. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay. Anybody online for public forum?
Madam Mayor, there is not.
Okay, very good. Well,
Can I just ask a question for some clarification? So as we move forward in the strategic things, I have some clarification. So I'm looking at the image that was given us, And so my question would be, how many are rentals in your neighborhood? Is it 7?
Okay, but, excuse me, stop, we can't all talk at once, and the people that are watching can't hear you unless you come to the microphone. These are good questions. If you could note your questions and provide them to staff, and then they can follow up with those. Either we don't have the answer, if we can get them, because I think Ms. Gellner, Ms. Quarles have been meeting
Right,
with
exactly.
the Johnsons as well, and perhaps some others. So they may have some of that information.
Okay, thank you. It just helps to be able to understand the complexity of the issue, so thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Okay. So we will go ahead and close out the public forum. Before we move on, I welcome you all to stay for the entire meeting. However, if you're so inclined as to depart, we will not hold a grudge, and we will give you all a couple of moments to disperse before we move on. I know this is very tantalizing stuff, but all right. We will continue on with our agenda for this evening. Next item after public forum is new agenda items. Does any member of the council have a topic they'd like to discuss at a future meeting? No? No? Okay, then we will move on. So next up is approval of the consent agenda, and this evening we have a few items. And I will read through those. Our first item, I'll just give folks a second here. Our first item is approval of the City Council workshop and regular meeting minutes of June 20, 2023. Approval of the check register, approval of municipal licenses, receipt of police activity report, receipt of building activity report, approval of professional services agreement amendment for design services with WSB for Bell Courts building improvements, adoption of resolution 40-2023 approving a grant agreement with the Department of Natural Resources for emerald ash borer management. Next up is the adoption of Resolution 41-2023, authorizing submittal of legacy grant application to the Minnesota Historical Society for the rehabilitation project of the Section Foreman House, approval of annual renewals of 2023 sidewalk cafe permits, acceptance of resignation of James Prince from the Heritage Preservation Board, award of contract to Bituminous Roadways, Inc. for the Wayzata West Middle School Tennis Court Replacement Project, approval of amended calendar for for October 2023 council meeting dates. And lastly, approval of participation in the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Division of Vehicle Services Self-Service Kiosk Revenue Sharing Program, and authorize City of Wayzata Motor Vehicle Manager to execute the attestation annually. All right. Do any members of the council wish to pull one of those items for further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to make a note. I didn't know that Mr. Prince was going to be here tonight, but I just want to give him a quick props. He's a really awesome, cool kid. He's been helping out Kathy with elections for several years now. I think when you're like 11 practically, maybe like 15 or 16 as a volunteer. And then he's evolved, keeping that position and helping Kathy with elections to the HPB as well. We don't want to see him go to college at Notre Dame. As weird as that sounds, we don't want him to go to college because we want him to stay here.
Oh,
But we understand he needs to spread his wings and fly, but he's awesome, and I hope he comes back. He'll be missed.
well, an amazing school to be going away for. So, yes, I know that Councilmember Parkhill had a few items.
I'd like to make a comment on item J also. I was sorry to see this happen, James. James has lived across the street from me since we moved in 2016. I think he was 11 or 12, and at that time, he was already volunteering for the city in some ways. And you've gone on with the Historical Society and the Heritage Preservation, as well as you've volunteered on several election campaigns, including mine. And in fact, at the end of my 2020 campaign, James, I promoted him to CFO of my campaign.
Oh, there you go.
He signed the final papers to Kathy. And, when my boys were your age, or even younger than you, I had them read a book called Do Hard Things. And it's basically as adults, we kind of have low expectations of our kids. Oh, he's just a kid, or she's just a kid, or whatever. And this book was all about defying that. And I was encouraging my boys to get out there and, do something that most teenagers don't do. Take some additional responsibility. And I have to say, you have been a leader in that, and you have done a lot more than most kids your age have done. And I expect that from you in the future. I think Notre Dame is going to love having you. You're going to be heavily recruited out of there. Whatever you choose to do, you will be successful. And thank you for your help and your service around Wayzata and your friendship and being a great neighbor.
Yeah, very well said. It is a testament to the person that you are and the family that raised you, that this incredible young man dedicated so much of his time for some really worthy tasks that we have throughout the city. And I dare say he's probably put in more volunteer time than some of the adults in this community, and he's given them a run for their money. But I also suspect you'll probably teach Notre Dame a thing or two along the way. So keep up the great work. Congratulations on being accepted to such a phenomenal school. We wish you the very best, but are very sad to see you go. But you are always welcome back, and I'm sure Kathy would welcome you with open arms during election season anytime. So thank you, James. All right. On a more administrative note, I did have a couple of questions, and it's with regard to item F, and that's the professional services agreement amendment for design services. So is this something that came out of additional conversations through staff, through the Parks and Trails Board, through the consultant? Can you just let me know, or let us know, I should say, why we need an amendment at this time?
Yeah, good question, Madam Mayor. So this was a product result of discussions with the Parks and Trails Board, looking at Clapperidge Park holistically, and not just thinking of the playground. Direction from the council was to look at the big picture, and this level of detail was just not in the original proposal by WSB. I don't know if there's any specific comments from Parks and Trails Board that pulled it out, but ultimately, they were compelled that this should be looked at to see if there's future opportunities for upgrades, accessibility, et cetera, to that building out there by the tennis court. Madam Mayor, anything else, Assistant Parks Planner Keith Keiser?
Yeah, Manager Dahl, Madam Mayor and Council. So again, to Manager Dahl's point, when we looked at what we were currently working on with Clapbridge Park, again, we wanted a holistic plan. If we're going to do a holistic plan, we wanted to include everything. That cabana up there by Bell Courts wasn't included, and they were making improvements to Bell Courts themselves. So we thought it just made sense to include the cabana in kind of this holistic plan. And some of the major things is ADA accessibility getting in there and seeing what kind of general, kind of small changes are needed for that little building.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, it's stored the cell equipment company equipment for so long. It'll be nice to get some ideas of how it might be used by the community. It's definitely a notable building, so that'd be great. The other item is item I, approval of annual renewals of the sidewalk cafe permits. And the only reason I have a question on that is that I did receive a few phone calls from some of our businesses with regard to the level of information required when nothing has effectively changed in terms of location or structure, but it almost seemed like a whole new application. Is that in fact how it's currently structured? And if it is there a way to minimize the amount of time for both the applicants and staff, frankly, in terms of submitting a renewal and an attestation that nothing's changed? Or
We did, Madam Mayor, we did talk about this internally, and because these permits are all on patios that are in right-of-way, there needs to be an approval process. We don't have this type of permit for ones that are on private property. And our code, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, spells out that annual approval is required. So I think there's ways to streamline in terms of if there's any changes or what the current, if they can just use the last year's information if nothing's changed. But there does still need to be an approval process. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it not as burdensome, not only to the restaurant owners, but also staff and you, so we can cut the red tape a little bit.
I'm okay with the annual approval. I mean, for us, we flip through it, we have the easy part. It's for the applicants and staff to go through and request and mail and receive and organize. Quite frankly, if there was a more streamlined renewal process for us to approve, if that makes any sense.
Right, and I don't know where we're going to land, but we communicated about it today, so it's on our radar to try to streamline it as much as we can.
Okay, fantastic. All right, those are all the questions I had. Any other questions that have come up? No? All right. How about then a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
And a second?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We'll move on to old business. I guess it's too late to request an amended agenda, huh?
I'm looking towards City Attorney Schelzel. I think you can.
Poor Nick's like, I just wanted to go home.
I mean, we've done that before.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think you can ask for a motion to, I presume you want to take up new business before the old business here?
I would. We have
As-
guests in the house and would just like to be able to address
Certainly.
their
If you
application.
have your council consent to that, change the agenda, I think that's fine.
Okay, and we would vote on that as well?
That would be nice.
Okay, perfect. Question for the council, does anybody have any concerns with moving new business forward and addressing old business last? No problem. No problem. Would someone like to make that motion?
I would move to address new business before old business.
Perfect.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We will address new business, and we will start with considering adoption of Resolution 24-2023, approving subdivision at 1030 Lake Street East. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe Assistant Planner Quarles is going to walk us through this presentation.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm up a little earlier than expected, but I'm ready to go.
You're always prepared.
Yes, I am. This
We appreciate it.
application is going to look really familiar in a lot of ways and a little different in some other ways. So that'll be sort of the crux of this discussion. Today we'll be discussing 1030 Lake Street East, subdivision for 2 lots, and the owner/applicant who is in the room is Black Dog Homes. The project is located on the east end of Lake Street, down by the railroad tracks. The surrounding neighborhood, in terms of zoning, this particular parcel is zoned R3A, as are most of the parcels around it, with the exception of the railroad, the promenade, and then the wetland area to the west. In terms of comp plan guidance, the neighborhood to the north is zoned central core residential, so a little denser, a little tighter, and then this particular block of Lake Street is zoned low density residential, which was a big discussion point in our last round with this application. Just a quick aerial view for reference, there's a pretty significant wetland on the west side of the property. The existing home sits kind of in the middle, and then there's also a detached garage up in the corner of the property. And then again, that's sandwiched between Lake Street and the railroad. And then a little bit more context in the neighborhood that we may end up looking at later. This street view is a little dated, but just to give you an idea, the main thing is that this lot used to have a lot of trees on it. It has a lot less now, and I'll get into that a bit more later. A picture of the wetland there for your reference, and that's a true wetland. Sometimes when we talk about wetland, it's just a little marshy, but this one is definitely a pond. And then that bottom image is just to try to communicate the sheer length of this property. I'd have to double check the number, but it's very, very long on this block. And even if you step all the way back up that street, it's hard to capture the whole thing in a photo. For some background, that existing home that I mentioned was built in 1903 and has that detached garage. I've mentioned those surrounding property conditions already. The lot itself is about 48,000 square feet, or a little over an acre in size, and then, over 330 feet of frontage on Lake Street, which is pretty crazy. The request in front of us is just one. It's a major subdivision. It's to take that current parcel and subdivide it into 2. That would involve demolishing the current home and the garage, and then building a new home on each parcel. For lot 1, this is the lot that definitely has to integrate the wetland. That lot would work out to about 35,000 square feet, or about 3/4 of an acre. About a little below half of that is the wetland. There's also that 20-foot wetland buffer, which you're also not allowed to build in. That lot slopes from east to west into the wetland. The proposed curb cut for this house is located to accommodate the speed bump on Lake Street over there. You don't want it to come right out onto there, but it does meet all of our other regulations. And then this home has a little bit more detail than the other one, because this is the home that Black Dog intends to build and sell, as opposed to the other lot, which is, you sell the lot and then the owner will custom build their own home. So when it comes to the level of control that this applicant has over these 2 lots, this is the one where we can talk a lot about it, versus lot 2 is a little fuzzier in the future. Just to review, the setbacks for these properties are the R3A setbacks. So that's 20 feet in the front and rear yards and 10 feet on the side for a principal structure. For lot 2, this one is about 15,000 square feet, or about 1/3 of an acre. There is a current curb cut on this lot for the detached garage, but they are proposing to move it over. That current cut doesn't meet the city standards of being a certain distance away from that side property line. We want to move it in a little bit. This site would be graded to slope from the street down to the railroad and then west to the wetland, so sort of across the back of the other property. And then I mentioned that this home is proposed to be custom built for a future owner, so the footprint shown is definitely preliminary, but it's just shown to give everybody an idea of what a house might look like on that site in the future. This one could require future stormwater mitigation because in the Shoreland Overlay District, there's a 25% hardcover limit, but in the R3A district, there's a 35% hardcover limit. So if you come in between those two numbers, you'll need to provide some extra stormwater mitigation, whether that's, storage, pervious pavers, rain gardens, that sort of thing. Just to review the R3A zoning standards, the minimum lot area is 9,000 square feet. Both of these lots well exceed that. Minimum lot width is 60 feet, minimum lot depth is 100. Again, both of these lots well exceed that. And I reviewed setbacks earlier. I will also note that the limit of the height of these homes is going to be 32 feet, and that's to the peak of the roof, which again is in line with the rest of this neighborhood. So when we talk about the comp plan designation, there's a contrast. When we talk about the zoning, it's going to be pretty in line with what else you see in this neighborhood. When it comes to wetland and stormwater, I mentioned that 20-foot buffer. The site plan as we have it does comply and will need to continue to comply. All of the drainage comes south towards that railroad area and then into the wetland. There's no new stormwater mitigation proposed for Lot 1 just because it's so large that they're not really going to get up to those percentages. And then, as I mentioned, there might be some stormwater mitigation in the future for Lot 2, which is a staff review and approval, and wouldn't come in front of you guys unless they wanted to come over that 35%, which I think is doubtful. Trees were a crux of the conversation last time we talked about this, the old application. I tried to do a pretty illustrative tree diagram this time. Hopefully the colors work on the monitors this time. That was a bit of a hiccup before. There's a couple types of circles here to keep in mind. Everything in green is a tree that is on the lot today that is proposed to be preserved. You can see that a lot of those are in that wetland buffer area, so that's going to also have the benefit of preventing erosion a lot better into that wetland. And also along the street up front, there was a lot of discussion with the applicant about how do you locate these driveways so that they're not cutting into existing trees. So those are located as best they can be, and it's a little easier to do when you have two lots. And then the red circles that have sort of a fuzzier outline, it's supposed to be purple, but it all rendered out weird here. Those are ash trees. And so ash trees are ones that the city is just kind of looking to have gone no matter what. They tend to fall under our diseased and dying trees at this point. So when it comes to ash trees, those aren't anything that we're penalizing the applicant for. So you might look and see that's a lot of trees that have been removed, but a not insignificant group of those are ash trees. So overall, this plan does look a lot different in terms of tree removal than the one that was reviewed previously for 3 lots.
So for our purposes, Valerie,
Yep.
are we looking at,
I can go
or
back.
just a blue circle with a red X through the middle?
So
That's being removed?
the blue circles with a red X through the middle are trees that were previously removed in the last couple of years, and I'll touch on that a little bit in another slide as well. There is quite a lot of tree replacement proposed. It's really tough to replace every single tree inch that you take down, just because when you plant a new tree, it's really only going to be so large as opposed to those trees that you take down. But all of those red notations with words next to them are trees that are proposed to be planted. They are proposing to plant those trees with 6-inch diameters, which is kind of going above and beyond. A lot of people, when they plant a new tree, will go with a 3-inch diameter. And then, as I mentioned, Lot 1 is sort of where the conditions are in the greatest control in terms of proposed plantings. Lot 2, those are trees that will likely get planted as such, but that may change a little bit with the future owner's preference. If they do, that tree replacement plan still has to go through us, even if they're, the fee in lieu of money they pay to us changes, or the escrow, or any of those numbers still has to go through staff. I'm not going to go through this entire slide. This is a little bit more of a reference, but when we look at the tree plan for this property, A couple of years ago, at this point, there was a previous property owner who was interested in developing on the lot, knew they were going to do something in the future, so they removed a bunch of trees at that time. That was something that was on the city's radar, so we hold quite a bit of escrow for those trees that were removed in, I believe, 2021. Those have been factored in to these removals, because at that time, we knew that this was in anticipation of future development, so we bundled it all in. Now, our tree ordinance does a better job with that look-back clause, so that was sort of the original version of how do we keep in mind that sometimes people are going to prepare a lot for development in a couple of years. To that end, this overall plan, there are less tree removals proposed and less fee in lieu required as a result. And there's a little bit more room to plant additional trees as well. So overall, these numbers look better, at least, than the previous proposal. In terms of department comments, the engineering department notes that those two parcels will be served by existing water and gravity sanitary sewer mains on Lake Street. And they noted that both those systems have adequate capacity for the additional residents. That wetland requires a 20-foot buffer, plan complies, and then any curb cut must comply with city standards. And then, as I noted before, any future stormwater mitigation on Lot 2 is going to require that city approval. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their meeting on June 26th. It was a fairly quick discussion, both because they'd seen this lot before, sort of same as this group, and also because they only had 4 of 7 present, so that also makes for a slightly shorter discussion. The things they viewed positively were they were huge fans of that reduced tree loss, because that was such a big discussion point last time. Decreased overall impervious surface, especially in regards to the wetland and how we treat all of this land area that's going to have water fall on it and flow to the wetland. And then they considered it just sort of a better match with that existing neighborhood character in terms of lot size in particular. And to that end, they did vote 4-0 to recommend approval of the application. When it comes to neighborhood notification standards, standard notification was sent out both by the owner to residents and from the city to residents and in the paper. There is no neighborhood meeting required for a subdivision alone, and this time around we actually have no public comments, written, emailed, called, anybody, and nobody around as far as I can tell. So that's a bit of a contrast. So the proposed motion will be to adopt Resolution 24, 2023, approving a subdivision at 1030 Lake Street East.
Great, thank you, Valerie. Any questions of staff? No? Okay. I'd like to invite the applicant up if you're so inclined. If you could please introduce yourself with your name and address.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for reviewing our project tonight. My name is Dan Vanderheiden. I'm the owner of Black Dog Homes and also resident of 312 Hampton Street South. With the 2-lot subdivision application, as Val has, I think, done a great job of, we have worked, again, with city staff, city engineering, to try to locate the proposed driveways within these 2 lots to minimize the effects of additional tree mitigation. So I'm very pleased that, the number of trees that we're looking at is very, very minimal. Obviously, you have to have a driveway to develop a property. So we've done that, but we've moved the driveways in locations that we feel very good about. So hopefully, and I think the response with this, the neighborhood or lack thereof is a positive thing. I'm assuming they, feel better about that. So. I really don't have a lot of comments. I think this is a very well-known project for each council member, as it was the Planning Commission. So I have nothing to say additional unless there are some questions that you may have that I can answer for you.
Very good, thank you very much. Questions of the applicant? No? The one question I have for you is, so originally we were considering a 3-lot subdivision.
Yes.
What I don't recall, what were you anticipating the footprint size to be of those homes compared to these?
The footprint size of the homes.
Yeah, on the 3-lot versus,
Yeah. I think we said in the original application that the homes would be 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. And I don't anticipate a change in that. Obviously, the hardcover percentages will drive the size of the home that's allowable on the site. I think the home that we're currently developing in terms of the spec home is around 5,000, give or take, 100 or 200 square feet. So, but scale-wise, I'm very proud of what we are about to put on that street, and I think the city will be very pleased to see what we are bringing to this community.
no, I have no doubt. I'll give you a little background to my question. People were concerned about the values of their homes, potentially going down. Smaller lot, typically slightly smaller footprint to work within. But then interestingly, we also had a lot of folks who were fighting their tax valuation, saying it was too high. So I think with 2 new beautiful homes on these bigger lots, it sounds like they're going to be maybe a little bit bigger. I don't think they have anything to worry about, I guess, is my point in the reduction in.
Yeah, I agree. I think home values, I think had we done 3 lots and 3 homes, it would have dramatically improved their property values, but we're going to do 2.
Yeah.
And assuming we get a positive vote. So again, we focus on quality on everything that we ever do. We do one of a kind of everything that we do. So we're very focused on quality and contributing to our communities. So yeah, so thank you
absolutely.
for the question.
Yeah, thank you. I think do we have anybody online with any questions? All right. Well, would you like to start off your thoughts, Molly?
Of course. Thanks again for bringing this application back, and to the Planning Commission and staff who put in all the hard work too, as well as colleagues up here. I approve your 2-lot subdivision, or I support it, so that's how I feel about this one.
Excellent, thank you. Kathy?
Thank you. I'm sure you guys are really ready to get going. So I'm looking forward to seeing the 1903 house. I think it has asbestos even on the outside. I drive by every day thinking it's going to be gone, but it will be soon, I think. And a big thank you for saving as many of the trees on the street as you are, and for listening to the concerns of the neighborhood. And I applaud you for that, because I know how difficult I think financially that probably is for you. But I think your homes are going to be beautiful and a good addition to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Vanderheiden, thank you for your patience through this process. I think, it was a tough call with 3 versus 2, and I think you saw both sides of it. We all saw both sides of it. I think your site plans are carefully planned out, reasonable lot size. There should be no complaints from any of the neighbors. It's only going to add value to the neighborhood. You were kind to the tree canopy, and I wish you much success, and I support the 2-lot subdivision.
Excellent. Well, I supported the 3-lot subdivision, so I support the 2-lot subdivision. I still contend that at 3 lots, they were similar in size to the existing lots within close proximity. Be that as it may, a majority of the council did not feel that way, and so we are here today. I think that regardless of 2 lots, 3 lots, the quality of the homes that you are building and the care that you will put into it, you are not a fly-by-night developer. You live in the neighborhood. So I have zero concerns about the product that you will be putting forth. And I do think if whatever value the three lots would have brought to that neighborhood, this will exponentially bring significant value to that neighborhood. So as my fellow council members have said, thank you for your patience through this. We have dealt with, a few hiccups and some bad weather along the way. And, at the end of the day, we're here this evening. And it sounds like you have full council support. So with that, would someone care to make a motion to adopt Resolution 24-2023, approving a subdivision at 1030 Lake Street East?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. And a second?
Second, Madam Mayor.
It's been first and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, the next item under new business, thank you very much, is for us to consider award of a contract to New Look Contracting, Inc. for the Ferndale Road Sidewalk Improvement Project. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mike Kelly, our Public Works Director and City Engineer, is going to take this one. He's going to go over to the podium since we're kind of crunched for space over here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I was going to sit over there because Nick was supposed to be gone by now. You rearranged things, and I really appreciate that. So, I'm excited tonight to be here to talk a little bit about a project that is going to make good changes for the city of Wayzata. If someone could change the slide ahead, please. This is a project that over the years has been talked about several different times, and it's finally made it to the point where we're looking at construction. It's a pedestrian connection between Lake Street and Wayzata Boulevard along the east side of Ferndale Road. This project has been contemplated both in our Parks Master Plan and our 2040 Comprehensive Plan. This is a location map. Obviously, Ferndale Road shows that area between Wayzata Boulevard and Lake Street. We had a meeting back at the end of May with our residents to show them our plans, talk a little bit about what we had put together. Tried to put together some renderings. They don't look perfect. This one looks a little bit cartoony on the right-hand side, but really the intent of this rendering is to show that it fits with very little impact to existing conditions along that east side. We have another rendering looking to the south. This one, as you can see, the sidewalk sort of blends into the street. There is a small retaining wall that runs along the east side there to protect some of the existing landscaping. I did include a slide, the next one. There were some questions about what the material of that retaining wall is. We've specified the same exact material that we provided at the Wayzata Boulevard and Superior Boulevard intersection, right that kind of fronts Benton Avenue. Same material. It'll blend in very well with that location. Last week, we received 3 bids for this project. They range from about $480,000 to a whopping $750,000. We were a little surprised by that. The engineering estimate, about $420,000. The current CIP has $540,800 allocated for this project, but technically this will be funded through the TIF District 5 as a pooling project. So with that, staff recommends awarding the Ferndale Road Sidewalk Improvement Project to New Look Contracting, Inc. for the amount of $479,894.50. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Can we go back one slide, please? Has anybody reached out to PERC Construction to get some more insights into the bid?
We haven't yet. We will following this. There's not a lot we can really do about conversations with contractors because they can't change their prices between bid date and consideration.
I'm just curious as to the mindset and the estimation and the bid.
Yeah, I don't know if they were concerned. One of their largest numbers that they had in here was almost $200,000 for mobilization. This isn't a very big project. I think in comparison, New Look Contracting, and I'd have to look at your bid package, I don't have it right in front of me, but mobilization, I think for New Look was closer to 30,000. So that's a $150,000 range that I can only assume they thought something might be risky.
Sure.
So there were a couple of those items. 200,000 was a big one, and that actually would be about the difference between the second bid and the third bid.
Okay.
But that was a bit surprising.
Yeah. Other question. So the meeting with the neighbors, I mean, historically, we moved away from doing that project because of the trees and the impact to the trees that would have to be removed, et cetera. What was the reception like from the neighbors with regard to the trees? And do we have a communication plan in place in terms of construction, impacts to their properties, noise?
Yeah, the reality is the meeting went very well. The adjacent residents understand that there's going to be some impact. They understand that this is an important pedestrian connection for the community. And to those people on the east side, actually is a great benefit right outside their front door. There are a couple of those properties that will have some tree impacts. We've looked at that with our city forester. Some are probably not ideal, but at the end of the day, once our project is complete, we're going to kind of verify what spaces we still have available, and we'll do some planting, some additional planting along that area. The primary concern was from the Edgewood townhomes related to the arborvitae along that east side. And if you go back a couple slides, the depiction of the rendering, although it's not, it is a bit cartoony, the next one, that one, shows that the curb and our final construction is actually in front of those. We won't get into the root balls that are a little bit further back. We've had some conversations with the property management about if for some reason we do impact those arborvitae, we'll address it, we'll take care of it. We don't want to be a burden to this. And at the same time, if our project doesn't impact them and they want to do some additional planting or a fence in that area, we have a permitting process that allows them to fill in some gaps as well.
Fantastic. Great, thank you. Other questions for staff? Yes, Kathy?
Just one. Mike, if we could, do you actually have page 215, or if we could put that up? If we look at line item 28, we have the breakdown of the 3 different contractors. When I look at the New Look, this is item modular block retaining wall. They have a $6 cost for the wall.
Correct.
Are they not doing the wall?
They are doing well.
Why $6? And the next guy's $40,000 and then $118,000.
Yeah, I think that just historically, we always have contractors that have weird prices. I've done street projects where they've bid class 5 rock aggregate for a penny. And in this particular case, I can only assume that New Look wanted to get this job, was concerned that the retaining wall was going to be the difference and maybe the big break if they could get the right price. So they put in a penny. Comes out as $6. It actually turns out at the end of the day, the unit for this item is not actually square yards, it's square feet. So when you calculate 600 square feet, the price would actually be a little bit different. I think they assumed that. That's why they came in low. But some contractors just bid low on items and they pad it somewhere else.
Okay, so we're not going to get hit later for it, is what I guess I'm going to just
You're not.
Okay.
We will not. The bid items, the bid prices that you see right here, if you award this bid tonight, are the prices that are set for each of those unit items.
Okay, perfect. Well, they're going to find a way to get it paid for, but it's just not in that line item. Okay, thank you, Mike.
I'm good, that was my question.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else? All right. Well then, if we can go back to, let's see, would someone care to make a motion to consider let me start that over again. Would someone like to make a motion awarding a contract to New Look Contracting, Inc. for the Ferndale Road Sidewalk Improvement Project?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Just a quick modification to the motion or amendment. It would be in the amount of awarding the contract in the amount of $479,894.50. Are we okay with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. It's been first and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Mayor, can I just mention one real quick thing?
No.
I just want to. I mean, you
It's
can.
tough
It
for me
doesn't.
to get out. No, I'm kidding, please.
It doesn't. It's not regarding the vote or anything, so it can be done after. But I just want to applaud the city's creativity in use of TIF. Most cities would have to use their general fund dollars to pay for this project. This is being funded out of TIF 5, which is essentially the Pres Homes project. So, and TIF money is highly restricted use, but it can pay for infrastructure like this. So rather than, the burden being shifted to the taxpayers, you're using an existing tool that you have, which not many cities do. So good job.
No, absolutely. And it goes to show not all development's bad, right? When it's properly applied.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so we have a first and second. City manager had some further discussion. Any other further okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can stick around though, Mike, if you'd like, just to hang out with Nick a little bit longer.
Mayor, can I just say how good you're walking, Mike? You're doing great, by the way.
Yeah. So so we just concluded new business. We will now move on to old business. And under old business, we are going to consider adoption of Resolution 33-2023, approving a conditional use permit for municipal solar at 747 Mill Street East. And this is just a branch off of our conditional use permit that we approved that included City Hall. That we approved, we put this to the side for further discussion and information.
That's exactly right, Madam Mayor. It was more information was requested, so we tabled the item, and we're back tonight.
There you go. All right, take it away.
With that, Madam Mayor, Parks Planner has been waiting patiently, which we appreciate, and he's going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Manager Dahl, Madam Mayor and Council, and I'll go through some of that background here in a bit here too, kind of clarify as well. But again, we're looking at Resolution 33-2023, which is approving conditional use permit for municipal solar at 747 Mill Street East, which is the Muni and Liquor Store building, and it's looking for CUP from Chapter 938. So as Madam Mayor was alluding to, this project was discussed at the May 16th council meeting. At that meeting, there was two resolutions on the table, the first being Resolution 34-2023, which was approved for a CUP for rooftop solar at 600 Rice Street East, which is for solar on City Hall, Fire Station, and the library. And then Resolution 33-2023 was tabled specifically for the Muni Liquor Store building. And really the main discussion that was the reason for that tabling was the concern of the visual impact and the aesthetics of the solar panels at the Muni Liquor Store, especially the visibility of that building being down on Mill Street East in close proximity to Lake Street. There's a desire to want to keep the panels uniform. We showed a picture of a building at the city of Morris that had a angled roof, and we'll go through some of the renderings here in a second, but showing our panels be more or less straight and uniform on the building. So resolution was tabled to get to create some renderings, to get some more clarification as to what kind of exactly these solar panels will look like on the roof itself. So since that meeting, staff has worked with Blue Horizon, the solar company that we've been working with, to create renderings that I'll go through in a second here. This is an aerial showing the existing building and what the roof looks like today. So we pulled out some specific numbers just for this solar installation itself. So the cost of this solar installation would just be under $132,000, and accounts for just over $200,000 in net savings over the 25-year lifespan. And this installation accounts for approximately close to a quarter of the total energy production of all the solar installations, including the Public Works building installation as well. The proposed installation, if this is approved, would be installed with all the other installations, most likely later summer, early fall is the kind of timeline we're looking at. So now moving on to the renderings here. There's a few of them here. This first one being essentially a bird's eye view looking straight down at the building, kind of like the aerial view we were just looking at. You can see the panels are proposed on most of the roof lines except for the north-facing sloped roofs there. And then these next few are from the right-of-way itself, from the parking lot. There's a few of them from this one being on the west side of the building from the parking lot. Again, you can see the uniform edge, just straight. It's not an angled roof on those kind of south-facing roof lines. This is from the middle of the parking lot. This one is another drone shot here, looking west towards the parking garage. You can see the ones in the rear of the building are the ballasted systems, and then the ones on the pitched roofs will just follow the same pitch as the roof itself and be connected that way. And then this last rendering here is from the east side, east right-of-way, showing the panels on the building too. And we can go back to these, discuss more if we need to. So overall, again, the staff recommendation is approval of CUP for the rooftop municipal solar project at the Muni Liquor Store building. Mainly, the project would help advance the guiding principle in the 2040 comp plan of environmental sustainability, stating that Wayzata should take a lead on sustainability goals and objectives. At the Planning Commission level, there was no public comments received, and there's been no public comments to date either. And the Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously. So some of the questions to consider: does the CUP fit with the 2040 comp plan? Do the proposed changes conform to the present and future land uses of the area? And does the project create any adverse effects on the area? So we're looking at Resolution 33, 2023 here tonight. With that, I'll pass it back to Madam Mayor and Council for any questions you might have for me.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nick. Questions for staff? No. Yes.
I have one. The contract we signed at the end of December, and I understand that we're financing this. Did the interest rate change in the last 6 months, or did we lock in December?
So for the total cost of the project,
Well,
or
yeah,
the rates that we're getting
Yes.
from the electricity use?
No, the interest rate, because apparently we're financing this.
Councilmember Parker, actually, we're paying for it cash.
Okay,
All right.
never mind then.
Excellent. Kathy?
I was just going to say thank you, Nick, for the much better renderings. I think that probably clarified a lot of concerns that were asked at the last meeting, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Councilmember Iverson said. You know, this is a much better representation of what we were expecting to see. And what we were seeing at a different municipal liquor operation was a little off-putting. So definitely appreciate the time there. I'll just go ahead and kick off our discussion on this. I think that this, to me, certainly is in keeping with our comprehensive plan, our ideals about energy and sustainability and the environment. I think it certainly is aligned with our, the uses both today and what we'd be looking to do there in the future. I don't find that it would have any adverse effects. And you said that we had contacted the residents up at Woodston up above, correct? You didn't have any concerns there?
Yes, we sent them direct mailings to those residents
Perfect.
here.
Okay. That would be my biggest concern, is if they felt that that would somehow adversely impact them, and seeing that there are none, I also want to just, so I'm very supportive of this, but also think the Energy and Environment Committee and you, Nick, in leading the charge here. So thank you. Anybody else want to provide their thoughts before we move on to motions and votes?
I could just reiterate what you said, Mayor, and thank just a few more people. Councilmember Buchanan worked very hard on this, and I'm happy to support it as well. And yeah, just wanted to give him that shout out.
Perfect. Yes, a lot of hard work by that committee and Councilmember Buchanan as well. So, all right, then our last item to address here would be to adopt would someone care to make a motion to adopt resolution 33-2023 approving a conditional use permit for municipal solar at 747 Mill Street East?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? Here we go.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. And last up this evening, we have our city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things to mention. Be brief. One, just want to say thanks to everybody who came out for the sand breaking event we had last week. Well attended. It was a great day, and obviously a great day to celebrate the commencement of construction on the Lake Walk. As you appropriately said, Madam Mayor, it really has taken a village throughout the years, so we appreciate everybody that has helped along the way. Through all the council members in the past, over the last 15 years, to the landowners, for example, that are allowing our barges to come to get materials and bring the workers over across the lake to work on the property. I know one landowner, Gabriel Jabor, has graciously allowed Kraus Anderson and the contractor to use their property and bring the barge every morning over, and then they have to go back, and it's in Shorewood, so it's an hour away essentially. But it just goes to show you how many people have been involved, and thanks to Mr. Jabor for allowing us to do that, and thanks to everybody for all the different roles that they've played along the way. So that was a good event. Looking forward, this week on Thursday, we have our annual police and fire softball event. They've been pretty docile, I would have to say, both chiefs. So I don't know if the aggression to, in terms of who's going to win is there or just kind of hiding somewhere. I hope it is, because I like the competitiveness that it usually brings. So we'll see. It's supposed to be a nice evening, and it goes to a good cause as well. So that starts at 6. I know a couple of you have been toying with maybe playing, so we'll see how that goes. But it's open to the public, just a lot of fun, and again, it's for charity purposes. So please come on out. Night to Unite, we're not going to have a meeting until the 8th of August. So Night to Unite is August 1st. I don't have all the details in front of me right now, but folks that are still interested in either starting a block party for that evening or just wanting to know like what's going on in their neighborhood, give the police department a call and go over our website. It's all on there. And we hope to have a really robust evening with many stops, many good food items to try, and just good camaraderie, good fellowship with the community. It's a great opportunity to actually get out to the community and talk with our residents and talk about all things, not only related to public safety. Yeah, sure.
I have no idea what Night to Unite is.
It's a event. It's an evening that really promotes public safety into our communities. It was in some areas it's still called National Night Out, but for a variety of reasons it was switched over here for good reasons to Night to Unite. It's really about the whole day. During the day, we have a luncheon sponsored by the Chamber where our police chief will be speaking with a panel with other community members as well. So it's just really about public safety and community. Anything to add there, Madam Mayor, about the evening or the intent?
Oh, it's No, I mean, you said it very well, but it's also, it's really about bringing your neighbors together to get to know them, because as we know, get to know our neighbors, we look out for one another, and we understand our neighborhoods a little bit better, and that translates into lower crime, and I don't want to speak
Eyes on the
behalf-
street.
Eyes on the street.
So what do we do? Put like a little, Kool-Aid stand, but with beer at it at the end of our driveway and invite people over, or what?
Well, it's, you know what, we're going to have you call the police department and you can host a 19 night, no, it's really nice. People have their neighbors don't bring kind of a potluck, and you get together and you talk with your neighbors, and then council, police department, fire department kind of break up into little zones, and then we go around to each of the houses who are hosting that night.
Okay.
But it's, some people grill, some people just make hors d'oeuvres, some people have chips and pop. And so it's for people of all ages to get together and see fire trucks and police cars and get to meet their local elected officials and first responders.
So how many communities are doing this? Hopefully this is beneficial to everybody, because,
Thousands across the country. They do it in most communities.
and what about in Wayzata? How many?
We typically have around between 20 and 30
really?
block parties, and it also includes Long Lake as well. And usually there's a message with both fire and police, whether it's trying to get volunteer firefighters or don't forget to lock your doors in your car or something like that.
Yeah. Shall we sign you up?
Well, you get to ride in a fire truck. It's really fun.
All right.
That sound awesome.
Well, further questions can be directed to staff.
Right.
Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, want to give a special thanks to the fire department and also the Muni employees. We had a fire, speaking of fires, late last week in the oven. It was a gas issue of the gas line. Our Jen and Jean at the Muni saw it right when they were leaving, called the chief. The chief and others came over, extinguished it, so the sprinklers didn't go on. It was put out safely. They were able to clean it up. The Muni employees, I can't name them all, but they basically cleaned up everything within a day, and also made the necessary actions to get the gas line fixed, resolved, and also even ordered new equipment, just basically on a moment's notice, to restore and replace the 2 ovens that were lost. So really an unbelievable, it could have been a tragedy, could have been a real big issue, but thanks to the proactiveness of our firefighters and just the commitment and the motivation of our persistence of our Muni employees, we were only out of business for 1 day, and now we're back as like nothing ever happened. It was incredible, and I know, Mayor, you stopped by and saw them going at it. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I think I stopped in there, about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they had been, our Muni crew had been cleaning maybe for 5 hours, 6 hours. You would not even know that there had been a fire. There were a couple remnants while they were waiting for the hot water to be, or the gas to be turned back on so that they had hot water. An absolutely incredible job. And the fact that there was no substantive damage beyond the equipment, that nobody was injured, is really a testament to the quick response of those employees. Now, I do have a question about that. You said they called the chief. They called 911, I hope.
They called 911, but everyone knows Chief Clapbridge too, so I wouldn't be surprised if he afterwards got a
Because we tell
cell
everybody,
number.
always call 911.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Do not call the chief, call 911.
Call 911, yes. We don't want to give the wrong idea here, but no.
Yeah.
And so very, very thankful. I mean, everybody from Jeff Petrini, our general manager, who was able to literally get equipment that is otherwise weeks and weeks on back order, delivered within in less than 24 hours.
Yep.
Is truly remarkable. In 12 hours, I think, he had equipment on site.
Greg
So-
and Dean, they were all hands on deck. It was really impressive.
Absolutely, yeah. So, well, yes, so very, very thankful. I was chuckling a little bit and looking around quizzically when you said you heard a couple of us might be playing, because I know that I'm not on that list.
I was not referring to you, Madam Mayor.
Good. I didn't know what expectations were being set for Thursday.
And playing maybe this year, maybe next year, it's still a negotiation with the rest of the council in terms
Okay.
of participation. But
Yes.
I'm working on them.
Are
Okay.
there openings?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, maybe.
It's Thursday, you got to commit.
We would love to
Depends
have
on
you.
the opening. Will you call me tomorrow?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, you pinch hit for both teams when you're on the council. You've got to play for police
Yeah,
and you have to play for fire. So it doesn't really matter.
I know, but I might not be an asset for one of them.
That's
so-
that's okay.
Just saying.
We would love to have you. It's competitive, but in a fun way.
Hence why I don't play.
Yeah.
They may not want me.
Self-pride, and I don't want to hinder a team, so.
The other thing, Madam Mayor, I wanted to bring up, and I hate to put her on the spot, and I forgot to mention this to Councilmember McDonald, but I know you are the liaison to the council to the Clapperidge Park engagement process, and I know there was an open house last week, and it looked like it was well attended, and there was good information. I don't know if you want to give an update on that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to. Like you said, it was well attended. I thought it was great. People were really open to the ideas that we presented. The values, I think you wouldn't be too surprised at, which were to maintain all the trees. The sledding hill is very important. There was a lot of support for moving the play structure, a new ADA play structure, to be closer to the warming house, to make that more of an all seasons building, so closer to bathrooms, and maybe some potential parking. That was kind of split on that, and a lot of interest in expanding the inside of the warming hut to be used at winter time, not necessarily expanding the footprint, just using the existing roof level. So it was, all in all, it was a great success. Yeah. We're gonna meet tomorrow and put all these comments together and report back.
And then ultimately, that'll be an item that the council formally looks at, probably first in a workshop, and then, ultimately get approved.
Excellent. I'm excited to see the new ideas. Fantastic. Well, sometimes these processes are painful. It's stop, start, backwards, but at the end of the day, I think the results always end up being, something we can look back and be proud of. So I'm very excited. Construction has started on the Lake Walk, and so noise. How is the noise? I guess I haven't really heard anything.
Good question. I don't know if they've officially started driving the piles. They've been getting the template set. I've heard that was supposed to happen yesterday, but either they're driving them and they're just not that loud, at least from us up here, or they haven't started yet. But it sounds
I was there today, just looking, curious, and they are pushing them in right now, temporary pilings, and I guess they put them in there temporarily, and it's kind of, they're just slowly pushing them down, makes no noise. And then apparently they're going back and then putting in permanent ones, which that one could be more noisy. But I was surprised they're doing it twice, but I think they'd want to make sure everything's correct before they permanently put these ones in.
Oh.
But that's what I saw today. They had one T structure in, and then they were putting in another piling.
Cool.
Exciting. All right. Well, so it's not 4 years worth of pile driving
No.
like we had
Right.
down the way. That's
Hopefully less than 4 months, but we'll see.
perfect. Well, yes, I just want to reiterate my thanks to all of the people who've come together to make that happen. The sand breaking was fun, the people who were able to show up, but it is true, it has taken a village. It's taken a lot of very committed and dedicated people over the years And then, the people who've stepped up at the end to, as you said, with Gabriel Jabor, who is lending his land for the purposes of the barge and crews getting across safely. So very appreciative of that and everyone coming together. So it'll be an exciting ribbon cutting.
Can't wait.
When it's all done. So wonderful. Okay. Well, I think that's all we have. But I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.